Today we're speaking about Rosh Hashana, the Yom Hadin. But is there any way to make a deal with God? Remember that program, Let's Make a Deal? Monty Hall, he was Jewish. Is there a way to let's make a deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Is it possible? Do we have to face strict din, chas v'sholom, or is there a way to make a deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's interesting, the Gemara tells us in Bava Basra that Godol ma'shenema be'Iyov yotam Avraham. Greater praises are said about Iyov, Job, than about Avraham. How could that be? Iyov is greater than Avraham. By Avraham Avinu it says, after the Akedah, Kirei Elokim ata. I know I'm not up to the sheets yet. You're a God-fearing man. So Avraham gets, what's the word, accolades. He gets the title Yirei Elokim. But if you look in the book of Job, chapter 1, Job is Ishtam, the Yashar Yirei Elokim. So the Gemara of Basra wants to know, why does Iyov get more diplomas than what? Than Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu gets Yirei Elokim ata. But Job gets Ishtam. What does Ishtam mean? Perfect man, the Yashar. What does Yashar mean? You ask anybody for directions in Israel, they tell you Yashar, Adasof, right? Straight, Yirei Elokim. So why does he get more diplomas? Why does he get more praises than whom? Than Avraham Avinu. So the Gemara Bava Basra 15 says, Iyov vatran b'memono. Iyov was a vatran. He said, keep the change. He had forbearance. In English, vatran, we'll see what that means. He had forbearance. So because Iyov was a vatran, and he said, keep the change, therefore, the scripture gives him more titles than what? Avraham. You understand this? I don't. Huh? How do you become an Iyov and accept all the suffering? When you give in, when you forgo, you overlook. But Avraham was a chesed person. Avraham was a great chesed person. Chesed could be a power trip, an ego trip. You hear? But to be a vatran, but to overlook, to look the other way, like Iyov did, that's the way a person can deal with his suffering.
How did he look the other way?
He was a vat. The Talmud says that he looked the other way. He accepted his suffering, and he was very liberal with his money. He said, keep the change. He was a vatran. And we'll see what that means. If you take a look at our sheets, what does it mean to be a vatran? What does it mean? If you look on the side of it, it says Rosh Hashana. It's highlighted in yellow. See, it says Rosh Hashana. On the side where it says the Gemara teaches another lesson, you have that? Amar Rava. Rava said, the side that says Rosh Hashana, Rava said, Kol ha'mavri al midotav, any person who relinquishes his measures of retribution. What does that mean? He relinquishes his measures of retribution. What does that mean? So if you look at footnote 37, you see that? The word mavir occurs in a few passages in the Talmud in the sense of to leave or pass over, to look the other way. Someone wrongs you and you look the other way. That is, he does not calculate the exact measure of retribution that his attacker deserves. He drops the matter and goes the other way. In Yiddish you say farkuk or farkik. Farkuk, right? So back in the Gemara now, Rava Amar, highlighted in yellow, anyone who relinquishes measures of retribution, mavirin lo al kol peshav. The heavenly tribunal relinquishes all sins from him. On the Yom Hadin, if you want to make a deal with God, if you act, what's the word, magnanimously? If you're a vatran and you look the other way when someone wrongs you, that's a guarantee that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kavayachol, the Bezdin Shomala, the heavenly tribunal will what? overlooks sins. If you pardon others when you don't have to, then the heavenly tribunal relinquishes all his sins from him. It's called midah keneged midah. See footnote 38? Since the person that was wronged, footnote 38, he relinquishes his right to exact retribution for the wrongs done him, he looks away, so God's attribute of justice relinquishes its right to exact punishment for his sins. Wow, we have a formula here to make it on the Yom Hadin. What?
No, but it has to be one for one. Let's say one person does a terrible sin.
Yeah.
The person wasn't so terrible, so why shouldn't you forgive him?
Someone wronged you. Let's take a look.
A big, a lot, and the other person was.
The Talmud gives an example over here. The Gemara cites a related incident. You have that? Everyone have a paper? The Gemara cites a related incident. Rav Huna bereid the Rav Yeshua chalash. You have it, Maddie? Why not? The Gemara cites a related incident. Rosh Hashana 17a4. The Gemara cites a related incident. Rav Huna, the son of Yeshua, became critically ill. You have that? Yeah. Rav Papa went to be mevakech olehim. Rav Papa went to be mevakech olehim, right? Rav Papa saw that he was what? On the brink of death. So he said to the people surrounding the rabbi's sickbed, what did he say? Supply him provisions for his journey. Call up the Cheved Kadisha, they should measure him for shrouds. This guy is a goner. Hear this? L'sof itpach. In the end, the rabbi what? Recovered. Rav Papa was ashamed to go see him. Why? Why was he ashamed to go see him? Because he already buried him, and the guy what? Made a miraculous recovery. Rav Papa was ashamed to see him. You hear? So this guy, Rav Huna, was already, I think it's called an NDE experience, near-death experience. Yes. They said to Rav Huna, what did you see? You were already, all your flat lines, it all went flat. The flatliner? All your vital signs were flat. So it looks like he was clinically dead. And now he came back. So the rabbis asked him, what did you see up there? Amalei and Hochihave. He said, indeed, Rav Papa was right. I was a goner. You hear that? Amalei Kodesh Baruch Hu. But at the last minute, the Holy One, blessed be He, said to the heavenly tribunal, since he does not stand on his principle, that is, he is tolerant of others who wrong him. Wow. So therefore, God says, midah keneged midah, do not take a strict stand against him. So even though he was guilty, he should have been punished, and his time was up. But God said, since this guy is a vatran, how do you say that in English? A forbearer, or mavri al medosav, right? He looks away. He forgives even though he doesn't have to. So therefore, God says we're going to forgive him even though we don't have to. It's called midah keneged midah. How do you say that in English? Measure for measure.
So Rav Papa had nothing to do with that at all.
What?
Rav Papa had nothing to do with that.
No, Rav Papa insulted him. And yet he didn't feel any hatred to Rav Papa. Rav Papa buried him, he was still alive. So Rav Huna didn't feel any harsh feelings to him. He forgave him. So therefore, Kodesh Baruch Hu said, since you're so forgiving and loving, we're going to send you back. We're going to extend the contract. Your contract was up, but you displayed vatranut. You displayed forbearance. So therefore, God says we're going to forbear with you, and we're going to send you back. Why? There's a pasuk in Micha, Perik Zayin, Noisa Avain Va'over Al Pesha. There's a pasuk in Micha, the Goyim say Micah, chapter 7, Noisa Avain Va'over Al Pesha. God pardons transgression and he overlooks sin. Limi Noisa Avain, whom does God pardon transgression against? La'over Al Pesha, to a guy who what? overlooks sin committed against himself. So if someone sins against you and you overlook it, when you don't have to, you're guaranteed that what? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu will overlook your sin on the Yom Hadin. Because it's measure for measure. The way you behave with others is the way what? God behaves with you. Very important. If we are tolerant and forgiving and not so exacting with someone who wrongs us, then God will be tolerant and forgiving even though we wrong him. But if chas v'shalom, we are harsh and judgmental with someone that wronged us, so God says, that's the game you want to play? Dangerous game. And we know that. How do we know that? When David sinned with Bathsheba, did God punish him right away? No. First he sent Nathan the prophet with a whole spiel. Rich man, poor man. Right? And Nathan said, judge. So David says, that guy deserves to be executed. So what did Nathan say? Ata ha'ish. You are the man. So the Zohar HaKadosh says, God did not punish David right away. He wanted to see how David would react with a similar case by somebody else. If David would not have been so harsh and judgmental with this fictitious rich guy, then God would not have been so harsh and judgmental with him. But it's called boomerang in English. In Hebrew it's also called boomerang. So be careful. Don't judge others harshly because you might be condemning yourself. Midah keneged midah. Ata ha'ish. You condemn someone else, you're condemning yourself, lo yaleinu. But if you are tolerant and forgiving to others, you're guaranteed that God will be tolerant and forgiving to you, even if you don't deserve it. Why? Because that's the way you act with others. Yes?
Rabbi, isn't there a point, though, let's say, in my case, like where you forgive, and overlook, and finally you're just stupid if you just keep
You're
giving
asking
them a bullet for their gun.
You're asking a great question, right?
So, I mean,
if someone wants to harm you physically, we're not talking about that. Habar lahargacha hashkem lahargo. If someone rises up to kill you, you have to get up and kill him first.
Yeah, what about
We're not talking about physical harm here. There you have to protect yourself.
Right.
Because the first mitzvah in the Torah is what? Staying alive, staying alive. We're talking if someone shames you.
That's right. Okay.
Someone shames you,
Right.
right? And you have a right to answer back, but you don't answer back. So then you've bought yourself a ticket to ride on the Yom Hadin. We're not talking if someone is stealing from you or harm you physically. Someone insults you,
Yes.
puts you down.
And
He shames you. And you have a right to answer back and you don't, then you're guaranteed, you're lenient with him, you're guaranteed that God will be lenient with you on the Yom Hadin. It's called Midah Keneged Midah, right?
So at some point,
Yeah.
when they continue to insult you, don't you say enough?
You are allowed to do that. But if you don't do that, then you're guaranteed that God will be lenient and forgiving with you. Right? Yes?
How about Kamsa Bar Kamsa?
What Kamsa Bar Kamsa? What about that?
So he let it ride. He didn't do anything at the time. He later reported him to the Romans.
Well, he became a rodef.
He became a rodef.
He was embarrassed. He was ashamed. Right?
Right.
So he had a right to answer back. He had no right to go and become a rodef.
Right, but nobody answered back for him either.
Right. The rabbis didn't answer back for him. So therefore the Talmud blames the rabbis for the Chorban Beis HaMikdash. Right? You have a right to answer back, but not to become a rodef.
So you do have the right to stand up and defend somebody who's being shamed.
Right.
Okay.
But not to go and maser against the Romans to cause a Chorban. So here we have a problem. So it looks like God looks away if we look away. But the Talmud in Bava Kama, page 50, says, Mi sha'amra kodesh baruch hu vatran mevater al chayav. Seems to be a contradiction, Binyamin. The Talmud says, if you say God is a vatran, that God looks away, he's mevater al chayav. Not good. Seems to be a problem here. Does God look away? Doesn't God look away? Do you have to do tshuva? Don't you have to do tshuva? I'm all confused. So the Gemara seems to say in Bava Kama, page 50, that God is not a vatran. And yet, when we say Birchat HaGomel, Yehuda, Birchat HaGomel, you know, when someone is saved from dangerous situation, he's saved, he has to make a Birchat HaGomel. He makes a bracha, HaGomel L'chayovim Tovot. I was in a dangerous situation. I was guilty, and yet God was good to me. So God is mevater. You have it mixed up. You say God is not mevater. You make the Birchat HaGomel, Baruch Ato Hashem, HaGomel L'chayovim. I am guilty, and yet God bestowed on me what? Tovot. So it looks like God is mevater. That God does look away. I'm guilty. I don't deserve a miracle. And yet God caused the miracle. I make the Birchat HaGomel. He saved me from a dangerous situation. Even though I'm a chayav. What does chayav mean? Guilty of sin. And yet God bestowed good on me despite the fact that I'm what? A sinner. So it looks like God is mevater. Yosef, I'm all mixed up. What's the key over here? Yes?
Maybe the default is din, but the world wouldn't have survived with only din. So Hashem decided to go with plan B once again and do
Rachmin. But the bracha that we make in Birchat HaGomel, I'm telling God that even though I'm guilty, you gave me a free pass. That sure sounds like a vatran to me. So how do you jive with that, Yoel, with the Gemara in Bava Kama 50, that God is not a vatran?
What's this word, vatran?
Vatran means vergucken, overlook. Look away, forbearance. There is no really English word. What's forbearance?
Forgiving.
Forgiving. Turning a blind eye.
turning a blind eye.
Turning the other cheek.
Turning the other cheek.
We don't use that.
We don't use that. It's the wrong religion, right?
That's only for material.
But
But that's the Birchat HaGomel. I'm guilty. I didn't deserve the miracle. God, you made the miracle for me anyway, even though I'm guilty, because you, God, look away. But that seems to contradict the Gemara, Bava Kama, that God doesn't look away. So the key is,
it depends on us.
Baruch Atah Hashem. If you say God looks away, stam, without acknowledging His goodness, oy voy voy. Oy voy voy. You say God is a pushover without acknowledging His goodness, that's terrible. But the Birchat HaGomel, you're saying Baruch Atah Hashem. Baruch Atah. I am thanking and blessing you. I'm admitting that you are the source of all bracha, and I'm admitting that even though I'm guilty, you gave me a free pass. If you add that, that's Beseder. If you say God just looks away because He's a pushover, very, very bad. But you say God looks away because I say Baruch Atah Hashem. I am thanking and blessing you. HaGomel L'chayovim. Even though I am guilty, I admit I'm guilty of sin. And yet you bestow goodness on me. That's Beseder Gamor. That's Beseder Gamor. So that's on Rosh Hashana. I admit that I'm guilty. I have no schusim. But since I'm mavri al midosav on my midot, when someone wrongs me, I admit, God, that even though I'm guilty, you will look away. That's Beseder. Because you're admitting that you're guilty. You're not saying God's a pushover. No, God is exacting. But I admit that I'm guilty. And because I behave with others tolerantly, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're going to behave the same way with me, despite the fact that I'm guilty, which I admit to you, because that's the way what? That's the way I behave with what? With others. That's the way I behave with others. So, if a person can overlook, He can look away, even though he doesn't have to. There's a famous story of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Rav Moshe Feinstein was slandered by this big Hasidic Rebbe in New York. He said he's a makel, he's a lenient, he's no good. He slandered him, spoke against him. Erev Yom Kippur, this rabbi comes to Rav Moshe's house. You hear? And Rav Tuvia Goldstein Zatzal is there. So he's surprised to see him, Surprised to see him. So he goes into the Rav Moshe Feinstein's study. They stay for a while. And he comes out and he leaves. So Rav Tuvia Goldstein asked Rav Moshe, did he come to apologize? He didn't come to apologize. Why did he come? He came to ask me for a letter of reference. There's a job as a mashgiach in a big plant, the Heinz factory. They need a mashgiach. And if Rav Moshe would give him the reference letter, he would get the job. And he needs the parnasa. He has a large family. So Rav Tuvia Goldstein asked Rav Moshe, did you give him the letter? He said, of course I gave him the letter. Did he apologize? No. He didn't apologize. He didn't apologize, and yet I gave him the letter of reference anyway. Why? She said, why? He says, believe me, I didn't want to. Oh, when this guy came in, I was angry as hell. Now you need me. After you slandered me, I didn't want to give him the letter. I struggled. Eze Gibor, Kovish es Yitzro. We shall overcome. So I felt, the Gemara says, Yesh koinoi alamoi b'shah achat. A person can acquire his eternity in 1 hour. But Moshe said, Efshe dus is mein shah achas. You hear? Maybe this is my magic moment. I didn't want to give him the letter. I felt anger, but I was able to overcome. And I gave him the letter. I was a vatran. So perhaps this was my magic moment, what I was born for. If a person can overlook, I gave him the letter anyway. On the Yom Hadin, a person got it made in the shade. Because on the Midas Hadin, on Yom Hadin, Satan comes with a whole pekel. Every person has a whole pekel of Averot. A pekel. How do you say a pekel in English? A chavila. A package of sins. And the prosecutor, the Midas Hadin, and he says, throw the book at him. But now we have a way to neutralize the Satan. There's a way to neutralize him. I can have the Satan walk away. You hear this? If I walk away when someone wrongs me, even though I don't have to, then the Satan will walk away from me on the Yom Hadin. Because it's called Midah Keneged Midah. Let him have the Aliyah. Let him be first on line. You see guys, in the line, they cut in front of you. Right? You feel like giving him a real ranking out. Let him cut in front of you. Let him have the Aliyah. You hear this? You have a right to be angry. But you don't get angry. So if you let go, Satan will let you go on the Yom Hadin. And if Satan lets you go, who are you dealing with? The judge. But the judge happens to be my loving parent. If only I have to deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I got it made. Satan, the prosecuting angel, this guy, he's no good, he's no good. A whole package of sin. But if we are a vatran in our lives, and we walk away when we don't have to, the Satan will walk away. He'll forget his Avram, his tick. He won't show up at my trial. Then who am I dealing with? The judge. But the judge happens to be what? My Avarachaman. The judge happens to be my loving parent. My compassionate, loving parent. If I only have to deal with him, what am I worried about? But if a person is harsh and judgmental when someone wrongs him, Oy vay vay, then the boomerang. Then Satan says, aha! The way you judge others is the way God judges you. Right? So we learned a fantastic chiddush over here. If you forgive others when you don't have to, who are you doing a favor to?
Yourself.
Because you're guaranteed that God will forgive you even if He doesn't have to.
Right.
Midah keneged midah. Isn't that incredible? Midah keneged midah. And that's what the Talmud says. In the sheet in front of you, anyone who relinquishes his measure of retribution against a guy who wronged him, the heavenly tribunal relinquishes all his sins for him. As Micha says, God pardons transgressions and overlooks sin. Whose transgression does He pardon? One who overlooks sins committed against oneself. So if you can tolerate others leniently even when you don't have to, that means God will what? Tolerate and be lenient with you even though He doesn't have to. And that's not called vatran, because you admit that you're guilty. I admit that I'm guilty. But God, look how I behaved with this guy who ranked me out. I'm guilty. I admit it. So God, but look how I behave with him. You have to behave the same way with me. But I admit that I'm guilty. I don't say God's a pushover, chas v'sholom. I admit I'm guilty of sin. Hagomel achayavim tovot. I am chayav, yet God bestows goodness on me because I admit that I'm guilty. That's all God wants to hear. I admit that I'm guilty. Yes?
Hey, question.
Fire away, I'm all ears.
I was on Jaffa Street before, and
Right?
as I was walking, I see two men holding hands.
Two men holding hands.
And my
So
first,
happy together.
and my first thought was to throw them off a cliff, but I didn't do that. And my question is, you're told in this society to be tolerant of others. because
Right? We have to be
you don't wanna
tolerant. Yes.
judge. You don't want to judge, and I don't want to judge. It's not me to judge.
Okay. You must have ESP, Rabbi Yosef. Because that's my next point. Right? So they're holding hands, right? We never know the whole story. Maybe the guy was cold and he was holding his hand to warm him up. Bidan lekafschus. If you judge others favorably, then God will judge you favorably.
Two boys kissed in the front of my house.
So maybe He gave them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You always have to be dan lekafschus, right? My Rebbe would say, only by changing yourself can you change the world. First, you've got to change yourself for the better before you can change others.
Mind your own business.
What?
Mind your own.
No, you have to look for the good in people. Every person has so much good. You gotta focus on the positive. When it comes to yourself, you should what? Focus on the negative. When it comes to others, you should focus on the positive. Because the only person you can change is what? Yourself. So the Baal Shem Tov said, what good is it focused on someone else's negative qualities? You can't change him. You can change yourself. So look to yourself. Kishot atzmacha. First, better yourself before you can change others. Okay?
Question.
So, yes?
All ears.
Yeah.
But what about the mitzvah to rebuke your neighbor?
Oh.
Love your neighbor as you rebuke your neighbor, I understand.
Oh. Beautiful. So the Talmud says, I'm glad you came today, Yoel. Good to see you. Kishem shemitzvah loyma dovar hanishma, kach mitzvah shaloi loyma dovar shalo nishma. Anybody want to translate that? Just like there's a mitzvah to give rebuke to someone when there's a chance that what? They might change. So it's a mitzvah not to say anything when you know they won't change.
How do you figure that out?
You got to use the fifth Shulchan Aruch. How many Shulchan Aruchs are there? But what's the fifth one?
Common sense.
If you ain't got common sense, you're not going nowhere. Yeah, Abraham, the Gemara in Yevamah says it. There's a mitzvah to give rebuke when there's a chance it might help. But if you know it's not going to help, there's a mitzvah not to say nothing. Why? Because then you're just antagonizing him and causing him to hate. Better not to say. If you know he will not change, it's a mitzvah not to say anything. These guys never got brainwashed. They're never brainwashed. So if you're going to say something, you'll just be instigating what? Hatred. So, change yourself. Change yourself. Right? One smile at a time, one kind word at a time, and then it'll have, it's called a trickle-down theory. Trickle-down, right? If I change myself, then the world will change. But first I have to change myself to be better. I have to become a better person. Right?
Two other comments on this subject, though.
Well, I'm not finished yet. Let me do my shir, then we have time to talk. Rosh Hashana. What does Rosh Hashana mean?
End of the year.
What does it really mean? Rosh Hashana. Rosh means the beginning. The beginning of the change. She knows Hebrew, Chava. The word Shana, Lishanot. Rosh Hashana. It's the beginning of the change. This year I'll use my Rosh before I open up my mouth.
That's good.
Oh, I'll use my Rosh before I open up my mouth. Most of the Al-Chetz is what? The sins of the mouth. Use your Rosh to change. We blow shofar. Avram, come blow your horn. Remember that movie? Come blow your horn? No? We're blown away by the shofar. Don't blow it. What's the purpose of the shofar? The Rambam says the shofar is a spiritual alarm clock for the sleepy soul. It's reveille, reveille for slumbering soul, says the Rambam. It's God's wake-up call to our neshama. You hear? When was man created? Adam was created on Rosh Hashana. Adam was created on Rosh Hashana. And he was judged on Rosh Hashana. And Rosh Hashana is, today is your birthday, Rosh Hashana is the birthday of Adam. Adam was created on Rosh Hashana, and he was what? Judged on Rosh Hashana.
The same one?
The same Rosh Hashana, the same day that Adam was created, that same Friday he sinned, and that same Friday he was what? Judged. So therefore God ordained that Rosh Hashana, the first day of Tishrei, is the eternal judgment day, because that's the day when Adam was created, and that's the day when Adam was what? Judged. And it says, when God created Adam, Vayipach ba'apov nishmat chayim. God breathed into him the nishmat chayim, the soul of life. So God breathed into the human being the chelik elahai mimal on Rosh Hashana. So God blew into us the breath of life on Rosh Hashana. So what do we do with the shofar? We blow into the shofar. We imitate the boss. Just like God blew into us to elevate the animal instinct in us, to infuse our animal instinct with Kedusha. So on Rosh Hashanah we take an animal horn and we blow into it, symbolizing that God blew into us what? The Nishmat Chaim, which took place when on Rosh Hashanah. So it's God's wake-up call to our neshama. The shofar is the dialogue between God and my soul. Isn't that incredible?
That's beautiful.
The dialogue between my neshama and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the homing signal. All of us have strayed. We hear the shofar, it's a signal. No matter how far you have strayed, you can always come back. Just follow the sound of the shofar. When we blow shofar, that's the signal for God to what? Judge us. Hear ye, Avram, here come the judge. The Zohar HaKodesh says, at what point during the day does God judge us? When we blow shofar. When we blow shofar, that's the signal for the judge to come what? Judge us. We invoke judgment on ourselves. Why? Because the judge is my loving Father. That's why. So I'm signaling him to judge me by blowing the shofar. Now, usually a mitzvah is done as early as possible. Zrizin makdimin lemitzvot. What does that mean, Chava? Zrizin makdimin lemitzvot. A mitzvah is done as early as possible.
Hurry up to do the mitzvah.
Right. So how come we delay shofar until Musaf, Yehuda? Shouldn't we blow shofar on Shachrit? Huh? So Yehuda let the cat out of the bag. So I'll give you the halachic reason and the Kabbalistic reason. Why we push off shofar until Musaf. We should blow shofar in the morning.
Last night's Marie.
What? No, we should blow shofar. The mitzvah, a mitzvah should be done as early as possible during the day. So you have to blow shofar during the day. Why not blow shachrit? Why push it off until Musaf? So Yehuda gave the halachic reason. The Talmud, Yishalmi, says something incredible. Even 2,000 years ago, more people came to shul on Musaf than Shachris. Nothing has changed in 2,000 years. Talmud Yishalmi says, B'roivam hadras melech. There's a pasuk. When we blow the shofar, we're coronating the King of Kings. It's more glory and dignity for the king when we coronate him when the shul is packed. And there's more people in shul Musaf time, Avram, than Shachris. So that's the halachic reason why we delay shofar blowing till Musaf, B'roivam hadras melech. The king gets more glory and honor when you coronate him in a packed shul. Shachris, the shul is half empty. Look how things don't change in 2,000 years. That's the halachic reason. But I'll give you the Kabbalistic reason, David, then you'll ask. The Ari HaKodesh says, based on the Zohar, when we blow shofar, we are summoning the judge to judge us. Shachris, I'm not ready yet, Avraham. Shachris, I'm fashlufen. I'm not ready yet. I don't have my act together. Musaf time. When I get my thoughts collected, I already am in a proper mood. Now I can summon the judge to what? Judge me. Shachris, I'm not ready. You know, early in the morning, you're still a bit, haven't had your coffee yet, you're in shul. So only by Musaf time, we summon the judge. Here come the judge, not Shachris. I don't have my act together yet. Only by Musaf time, hear ye, here come the judge. And therefore you delay the shofar until Musaf, yes?
What is the concept, if you can explain that Hashem doesn't judge us unless there's a Rishayim mixed with the Tzaddikim?
So now David opened up a whole topic over here. The Talmud in Krisus, Kritut, there's 63 tractates. One of them is called Kritut. What does Kritut mean? Cutting off. There it lists the 36 sins that a person's chayiv karet, lo yaleinu, where the soul is cut off, like the Twilight Zone. Chilul Shabbat, and eating on Yom Kippur, going up to the Temple Mount without going to the mikveh. The 36 sins of chayiv karet. There, the Talmud mentions what David Harel just said. Wow, David, you're ahead of me. The 11 herbs and spices. Man, KFC, no. The 11 herbs and spices, that's where they got it from, The incense had 11 herbs and spices, Avram, right? Achad osa samonim. 10 of them had a delicious sweet smell. One of them, the chelbona, the chelbona had a very foul smell. If you look at Aryeh Kaplan's Living Torah, he says the chelbona was marijuana.
What?
the 11 herbs and spices that the Kohen burned, right? Every morning, every afternoon, twice a day. He burned, even on Shabbos and especially on Yom Kippur. 10 of them had a delicious, sweet, delicious smell. One of them, the chelbona, had a very terrible smell. And Rav Aryeh Kaplan, the Living Torah, says the chelbona was the marijuana. Therefore, Kahanim are always very mellow. Mellow yellow. Twice a day, they breathed that stuff. So Kahanim are very mellow. Avraham. So the Talmud Krisos asked, how come in the Ketoret you have one disgusting smell? And if that spice was missing, the entire avodah is posel. So the Talmud says that the 10 sweet-smelling spices represent what? The righteous among Israel. The foul-smelling spice represents the Rishayim. Even the Rishayim belong what? In the mix. Even the Rishayim belong in the mix.
Not Rishonim.
Rishayim, wicked people, who don't smell so good spiritually. They have a foul odor. They're sinners. We have no right to reject them. On the holiest day, Yom Kippur, we invite them to daven with us. Why? The same idea. He's a fellow Jew. We give him the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't know any better. He grew up with Romper Room, or he grew up with METV. He doesn't know any better. He's brainwashed with the leftist newspapers, MTV, whatever. So that's the idea, that on the holiest day, Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, we invite them. He's also a child of God. We have to be mekarev him. That's the chelbana, the foul-smelling incense. That represents the Rishayim. He's also a fellow Jew. And we have no right to reject any Jew. And if we cannot give him musar because he won't understand it, then bite your tongue and accept him anyway. That's the message of Shana Yom Kippur, to be tolerant of all Jews. If you want to judge somebody, who should you judge? Myself. The guy in the mirror. And if we behave that way, then God will behave that way with me. Yeah. I'm not doing him a favor. If I'm tolerant and forgiving and loving of others, I'm guaranteed that God will be tolerant and forgiving and loving with me on the Yom Adin. So therefore, David, your great question, on Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, we invite the Rasha. We show that we're tolerant and forgiving, even though we don't have to be. Thereby, Yisrael Baruch guaranteeing that God will be tolerant and forgiving with me, even though I don't deserve it. Why? Boomerang. David, I'm glad you came and you raised this beautiful. David Harel, I'm proud of you. That's the idea on Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur. You can't pray if you don't have a Rasha there. Hello, is there a Rasha in town? Maddie, strange, not so strange.
Otherwise, our feelings are impossible.
Right? On the Yom Adin, you have to show extraordinary leniency and tolerance to every Jew. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself. But especially on the Yom Adin, Shirley. But especially on the Yom Adin. That's the Tzohar organization. The Tzohar organization. They open up shuls all over in places in the Shema Tzayir Kibbutzim to reach out and touch every Jew. You think you're doing him a favor? Who are you doing a favor? Myself. God sees that. I got it made in the shade. Satan won't show up. He'll take a powder. I'm dealing with the judge. The judge happens to be what? My loving parent. Wow. And this idea, we keep repeating on the Yomim Naroyim, the 13 midot of mercy. The 13 attributes of what? Hashem, Kel, Rachum, V'chanun. We keep repeating that. What is it, a magic formula? What do you keep repeating that for? What? Hashem is compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, forgiver of sin, patient, and long-bearing. We keep repeating that over and over again. Oh, I don't understand. The Gemara makes a strange statement. Gemara, Rosh Hashana 17. God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, if you say these 13 attributes of mercy, I will forgive them. What is it, hocus pocus, Avram? We say those words and God will forgive me? Says the Shloah HaKadosh. The Gemara doesn't say to say it. The Gemara says, Yasu lafonai kaseder hazeh. You don't have it on your sheets. Rosh Hashana 17. Yasu lafonai. God says they shall perform the attributes of mercy, and I will what? Forgive them. Doesn't say to say them, says the Shloah. Yasu. What does that mean? You should do. Just like God is loving, compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, patient, and long-bearing, if I act that same way with a fellow Jew, then God says, you got it made in the shade. Yehuda, that's not magic formula. It doesn't say the 13 attributes. That's not going to help me. God says, Yasu lafonai. How do you say that in English? Perform. Do. God says, V'halachta b'drachav, to walk in his ways. It's not a magic formula. If I behave with compassion and graciousness and patience and long-bearing to one who wronged me, if I act that way, then God says, I will have to forgive you, because it's based on the boomerang. You see how it fits in? It's not saying. Saying ain't going to help. Yasu lafonai. If you act this way, with loving compassion and tolerance and leniency, then I will forgive you, because it's midah keneged midah. Aren't you glad you came today? Not say, it says Yasu lafonai.
We're all God's children.
Right.
We have to treat everyone, not only Jews.
Oh, you're right, Shirley. I stand corrected.
That's it.
Not a guy, a terrorist is coming to kill, right? I'm not talking about a terrorist. You're right. Every human being has a Tzelem Elokim. Right? Adam and Chava, Shirley made a great point. Adam and Chava were not Jewish, and God gave them a Tzelem Elokim.
Yeah.
They had the image of God, right? Right? The only person in the Chumash that's called Tzadik Tamim, I'll give you a hint. There's one person in the Chumash that's called a Tzadik Tamim. It ain't Moses. And he ain't even Jewish. Noach ish Tzadik Tamim. Shirley, your point is well taken. One person in the Chumash is called, not a Tzadik, he's called what, Avram? Tzadik Tamim. And he ain't even Jewish. What's the point? You don't have to be Jewish to be a tzaddik. Keep the 7, go to heaven.
That's it.
Powerful message.
Yeah,
Keep the 7, go to heaven.
During the war,
Yes,
some Goyim put themselves in such danger
of course.
to save the Jews.
There's the righteous, Yad Vashem, there's a whole section. Look at Schindler. Schindler saved how many? 1,200 Jews? Now, from those 1,200 Jews, there's more than 10,000.
That's right. That's who brought me here to make all
Schindler. Right? So, we learned an important message, right? That we should be more, I'm talking to myself, Yehuda. Be more tolerant, more lenient, more forgiving
To those
with
who are mean.
those that are mean to you, and then you guarantee yourself a acquittal on the Yom Hadin. Acquittal.
It's very easy.
Right?
Learn how to forgive.
Yeah, I've been with you. Yeah, that works.
I'm telling you, I was standing in the supermarket Friday in the express line, okay?
That's the longest one.
That's always the longest line, 10 or less, right?
10 or less hours.
So this lady comes with 49 items, right?
I've seen that too, yeah.
You know what I tell? And I have 3 items. You know what I tell her?
Go ahead.
Bevakasha, kadima. I thought she was going to have a heart attack. She expected to, you know. I said, Bevakasha, kadima. She wanted to kiss me. She wanted to kiss me. She couldn't stop. Oh, Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom, oh, Toda Rabbah. I didn't want to let her go. She had 49 items, and the line says 10 or less, Avram. I think I bought myself a ticket to Olam Haba. I didn't want to. We shall overcome. Moshe,
This is
I practiced what I preached.
completely out of line.
Isn't it amazing? And she couldn't stop thanking me. So it took me another 20 minutes. So what? Wo's Brent? I bought myself a ticket to ride, Yoel. You got a ticket to ride. Hashem sent me that because I could have said, what are you doing here? Other people said, get out of here, lady, get out of here. She stood behind me. And I said, the Kadima. They looked at me like I'm nuts.
I agree.
Hmm?
And once you have the last word, of course, but 2 comments, maybe those that were therapists in the room.
Yes.
There are 2 concerns. One is, if what the sages say, if you're compassionate with those with whom you should be harsh, you
Right.
might become harsh with whom those you should be
Right,
harsh.
right.
And the other one is an internalized anger pattern, that people can suppress that anger, as opposed to maybe a therapist would say, well, you still need an outlet for that anger. Maybe not to the person, but maybe you go swimming, maybe you jump in the mikveh, maybe you dance it out. You gotta, because if you internalize it, Rabbi, I'm sorry, but you get a lot of depressed people.
So I know what you do.
What do you do?
I'll tell you what you do.
Not the last word.
You stand underneath the subway in Manhattan, and when the train goes by, you yell your lungs out. As the subway clankety, clankety, clank, clank, still underneath it and yell. You get out your frustration.